In the small town of Aliceville, Alabama, a unique scene unfolded during the Second World War as German prisoners of war, POWs, engaged with an unexpected medium, American newspapers. Aliceville, established as a POW camp in 1942, was designed to accommodate approximately 6,000 German soldiers captured during Allied operations in North Africa and Europe. The camp's layout followed a standard design used by the U.S. Army, with barracks arranged in a grid pattern surrounded by guard towers and barbed wire fencing. The camp was under the jurisdiction of the 4th Service Command, with the 31st Military Police Company responsible for maintaining security. The War Department's guidelines, as outlined in various circulars of the time, dictated the treatment of POWs in accordance with the Geneva Conventions. This included provisions for food, shelter, and access to information. Camp Aliceville's operations reflected these directives, allowing prisoners to engage in agricultural labor, which was vital to the local economy. The prisoners worked in nearby fields, canneries, and lumber yards, with contracts managed by the U.S. Army Provost Marshal General's Office. These engagements not only supplemented the local workforce depleted by the war, but also provided POWs with modest wages, paid in coupons redeemable at the camp canteen. The camp's food systems adhered to wartime rationing policies, offering meals that conformed to both nutritional standards and the Geneva Conventions. While the menu was limited, reflecting broader wartime scarcities, it was sufficient to maintain health standards as documented in Red Cross inspections. These inspections ensured compliance with international standards and provided an additional layer of oversight on the treatment of POWs. Access to American newspapers came as a byproduct of the camp's educational and recreational programs, which were often facilitated by the YMCA. These programs aimed to keep prisoners occupied and mitigate potential unrest by providing educational opportunities and leisure activities. The inclusion of newspapers was part of a broader effort to offer prisoners a connection to the outside world, albeit an unexpected one. The presence of newspapers at Camp Aliceville was initially met with skepticism by the German prisoners. Accustomed to the controlled and censored media environment of Nazi Germany, they anticipated similar restrictions in the United States. However, the reality was quite different. The newspapers available to them were replete with headlines criticizing politicians, scrutinizing military strategies, and exposing business scandals. Articles accused public figures of corruption and called for the resignation of military officials, showcasing a vibrant and contentious media landscape. The POWs were surprised to find that these newspapers were not confiscated, but rather freely distributed within the camp. Guards, often casual about the content, would toss copies onto tables, sometimes even joking about the headlines. This access provided prisoners with a new perspective on American society, characterized by a free press and open debate. For some, this was a startling revelation. For others, particularly those like a former Nazi youth instructor among them, it was a profound insight into the nature of truth and propaganda. The YMCA's role in the camp extended beyond recreation and education to include a variety of cultural exchange programs. These initiatives, coupled with the availability of newspapers, contributed to a gradual ideological shift among the POWs. Without overt indoctrination, the systems and environments within the camp facilitated an ongoing exposure to American democratic values, including freedom of speech and the press. The local civilian population's attitude towards the POWs was generally pragmatic. While some residents expressed unease at the presence of former enemy combatants, others recognized the economic benefits of their labor. There were recorded incidents of fraternization between civilians and POWs, often centered around work assignments and local events. These interactions, though limited, contributed to a nuanced understanding between the two groups, further dispelling preconceived notions. Discipline within the camp was maintained in accordance with U.S. Army regulations, with infractions resulting in standard military penalties. Medical facilities were available, providing care that met the standards set by both the U.S. Army and the Geneva Conventions. Mail services allowed prisoners to communicate with family members in Germany, subject to censorship, which was standard practice during the war. As the war drew to a close, the focus of Camp Aliceville, like many others, shifted towards repatriation and re-education. The U.S. Army, in collaboration with various organizations, developed programs aimed at preparing POWs for their return to a post-war Germany. These programs included educational courses on democratic values and the rebuilding of a peaceful society. The transportation logs and directives from the War Department outlined the processes for repatriation, ensuring that each prisoner was accounted for and returned in an orderly manner. In conclusion, the experience of German POWs at Camp Aliceville serves as a case study in the broader context of World War II detention policies. The camp's systems and environments provided prisoners with a unique vantage point on American society, one that contrasted sharply with the controlled media landscape of Nazi Germany. Through everyday interactions with American media, particularly newspapers, the prisoners witnessed firsthand the dynamics of a free press, a concept that played a subtle yet significant role in the ideological landscape of the time. The ideological transformation of the German POWs at Camp Aliceville was not an immediate or uniform process. Rather, it unfolded gradually, influenced by the cumulative exposure to various elements of American society and culture. The camp, located in the small town of Aliceville, Alabama, was a sprawling facility designed to accommodate up to 6,000 prisoners, reflecting the scale of the effort to house enemy soldiers during World War II. Its layout was typical of many POW camps in the United States during this period, featuring rows of wooden barracks, each with their own distinct character, surrounded by barbed wire fencing and watchtowers manned by vigilant U.S. Army guards. Despite the war's intensity, the camp adhered strictly to the Geneva Conventions, ensuring that prisoners received adequate food, shelter, and medical care. These standards were maintained as a testament to the U.S. commitment to international law and the humane treatment of prisoners, a stark contrast to the conditions many Allied soldiers faced in Axis captivity. Central to the ideological transformation at Camp Aliceville was the prisoners' access to uncensored American newspapers. These publications served as a window into the democratic values and freedoms that characterized their captors' nation. For many of the POWs, this exposure was their first encounter with a society where the press could freely criticize politicians, question military decisions, and expose business scandals. Such openness was a revelation for individuals who had been raised in a system where the state controlled the narrative. The newspapers not only informed them of current events, but also illustrated a system where accountability was not just a theoretical concept, but an active practice. The impact of these newspapers was particularly profound for some individuals, including a former Nazi youth instructor who had once been a fervent advocate of the regime's ideology. Initially skeptical of the authenticity of American freedom of the press, his skepticism gradually eroded as he consistently encountered diverse viewpoints and open criticism of authority figures. The realization that these publications were not censored or altered marked a turning point in his ideological journey, a transformation mirrored by many of his compatriots. The camp environment also played a crucial role in this transformation. Beyond the newspapers, POWs were engaged in various work programs which were instrumental in supporting the local economy. They were employed in agricultural labor, forestry, and even in some local industries, providing much-needed manpower during a time when many American workers were serving overseas. This interaction with the civilian population, though limited, offered the prisoners a broader perspective on American life and values. Many POWs were surprised by the kindness and curiosity of the locals, who saw in these men not just former adversaries, but individuals caught in the currents of history. This humanization of the enemy further contributed to the ideological shift experienced by the prisoners. The local community's reaction to the presence of German POWs was mixed. While there were initial concerns about security and the propriety of allowing enemy soldiers to work in the community, these were largely mitigated by the economic benefits brought about by the prisoners' labor. Additionally, the presence of the POWs sparked curiosity among some locals, fostering a sense of understanding and empathy that transcended national boundaries. This mutual curiosity sometimes led to informal exchanges, with locals sharing their own perspectives on democracy and freedom, further enriching the prisoners' understanding of their captors' society. As the war drew to a close, the focus at Camp Aliceville shifted towards repatriation and re-education, the U.S. government, recognizing the potential long-term impact of these experiences, sought to prepare the POWs for reintegration into post-war Germany. Educational programs were introduced, covering topics such as democratic governance, economic systems, and the principles of individual freedoms. These programs were designed to complement the informal education the prisoners received through their engagement with American society and media, providing them with a comprehensive understanding of democratic principles. The repatriation process itself was a complex logistical endeavor involving the coordination of transport and the careful management of prisoner records. Many of the POWs expressed mixed emotions about returning home, uncertain about the reception they would receive and the state of their homeland after years of conflict. The re-education efforts at Camp Aliceville were designed to equip them with the tools needed to contribute positively to the rebuilding of Germany, fostering a generation of individuals who had witnessed firsthand the potential of democratic governance. While the ideological shift among the prisoners was notable, it is important to recognize that the extent and depth of this transformation varied among individuals. Some remained steadfast in their previous beliefs, clinging to the ideologies they had been taught from a young age, while others embraced the new perspectives they had encountered. The former Nazi youth instructor, for example, became a vocal advocate for democratic values, both within the camp and after his return to Germany. His transformation was a testament to the powerful impact of exposure to different ideas and the capacity for individuals to change. In the years following their repatriation, many former POWs became active participants in the reconstruction and democratization of Germany. Their experiences at Camp Aliceville, particularly their engagement with American newspapers, played a significant role in shaping their understanding of democracy and the importance of a free press. This generation of Germans, having been exposed to both the strengths and challenges of democratic societies, contributed to the development of a post-war Germany that valued and upheld these principles. The legacy of Camp Aliceville and its impact on the POWs is an enduring testament to the power of a free press and open society in shaping ideologies. The experience of the German prisoners serves as a historical case study in the transformative potential of exposure to democratic values, highlighting the subtle yet profound ways in which freedom and openness can influence even those raised under authoritarian regimes. The story of Camp Aliceville, therefore, is not just one of captivity and survival, but also of ideological transformation and the enduring impact of freedom. It underscores the importance of open access to information and the power of a free press in fostering critical thinking and encouraging the questioning of authority. As such, it remains a powerful example of the ways in which exposure to different systems and values can reshape beliefs and contribute to lasting change. This transformation was not just a personal journey for the POWs, but also a significant chapter in the broader narrative of post-war reconciliation and the rebuilding of a democratic Germany. The lessons learned at Camp Aliceville continue to resonate, reminding us of the enduring power of open societies and the potential for change, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. As the Allied forces pushed their way across Europe, leaving a trail of liberation in their wake, the German prisoners held at Camp Aliceville in Alabama found themselves caught in a unique wartime setting, far from the immediate chaos of the battlefield. These prisoners, primarily German soldiers captured during various campaigns, became an integral part of the wartime effort on American soil. Their presence and labor significantly bolstered the local agricultural economy, providing much-needed manpower in a time when many American men were overseas fighting. Camp Aliceville, deliberately designed to comply with the Geneva Conventions, stood as a model of balance between military necessity and human dignity. The camp's regimented schedule ensured that prisoners were not only put to work, but also offered opportunities for growth and recreation. This balance was meticulously maintained through a variety of work assignments, leisure activities, and educational programs. The camp administrators understood the importance of maintaining morale among the prisoners, believing that a distracted and occupied mind was less likely to cause trouble or attempt escape. American guards stationed at the camp played a crucial role in this balancing act. They facilitated numerous programs recognizing the potential benefits of such initiatives for both the prisoners and the local community. Sports were a major component of life at Aliceville, with soccer and volleyball matches being regular occurrences. The arts were also encouraged, with prisoners given materials to express themselves creatively through painting, drawing, and crafting. Moreover, a library stocked with English-language books and periodicals offered an intellectual outlet, allowing prisoners to engage with the world beyond the camp's barbed wire fences. One of the most transformative aspects of life at Camp Aliceville was the prisoners' access to American newspapers. This exposure became a pivotal element of their experience, offering an unprecedented window into a society where information flowed freely and criticism of authority figures was not only tolerated but expected. Such a stark contrast to the tightly controlled narratives spun by the Nazi regime's propaganda machine was initially met with skepticism and suspicion by the prisoners. Accustomed to news that served as a tool for ideological indoctrination, the freedom of the American press was bewildering and, for many, a catalyst for profound change. Take, for instance, the story of a former Nazi youth instructor stationed at the camp. Once a fervent believer in the doctrines of the Third Reich, his exposure to American newspapers began to chip away at his rigid understanding of authority and governance. He found himself drawn to articles in the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune that openly criticized political leaders and questioned military strategies. This exposure prompted him to reevaluate his beliefs and gradually shift his role within the camp from an enforcer of Nazi ideology to a facilitator of discussion and debate among his fellow prisoners. These discussions, often centered around the newspaper articles, became a nightly ritual within the barracks, sparking intellectual curiosity and fostering a sense of community among the POWs. The camp's educational programs, organized with the assistance of the YMCA, further fueled this ideological transformation. Classes in English, history, and political science were offered to the prisoners, many of whom jumped at the opportunity to improve their language skills and broaden their understanding of democratic principles. These programs were not mere time fillers. They were thoughtfully designed to prepare the POWs for eventual reintegration into post-war German society. The hope was that by educating these men about the values of democracy and the rule of law, they would return to Germany as agents of change, equipped to contribute positively to the reconstruction of their nation. The American guards, charged with maintaining order at the camp, observed these changes with a blend of curiosity and approval. Their generally casual attitude towards the prisoners' access to newspapers and educational materials reflected a broader cultural difference between the two nations. The guards' interactions with the prisoners were typically cordial, and over time, mutual respect developed, blurring the lines between captor and captive. This environment of relative trust was crucial in facilitating the ideological shift among the prisoners. As the war drew to a close, repatriation efforts for the German POWs were set in motion. The U.S. military, working in collaboration with international organizations, implemented a series of programs aimed at educating the prisoners on democratic values and the rule of law. These initiatives were intended to equip the POWs with the knowledge and skills necessary to contribute positively to Germany's reconstruction. The process of returning these men to their homeland was complex, involving meticulous logistical planning and coordination. Many of the POWs had not seen their homeland in years, and the prospect of returning to a country in ruins was daunting. However, the experiences and education they received at Camp Aliceville had instilled in them a sense of hope and purpose. Upon their return to Germany, many former POWs found themselves in positions of influence within their communities. Some became educators, using their time at Aliceville as a foundation to teach others about democratic values and critical thinking. Others took on roles in local government, bringing with them the principles they had encountered during their captivity. A few even participated in the nascent political movements that would shape post-war Germany, contributing to the establishment of a more open and democratic society. The legacy of Camp Aliceville and its impact on the German POWs was recognized by historians and scholars in the years that followed. The camp had served as more than just a holding facility. It had been a place of learning and transformation. The free exchange of ideas, facilitated by the American newspapers and educational programs, had challenged the prisoners' preconceived notions and laid the groundwork for their future contributions to a democratic Germany. In examining the broader implications of the POW experience at Camp Aliceville, it becomes evident that the camp was a microcosm of the ideological struggle that defined the mid-20th century. The contrasts between authoritarianism and democracy, censorship and free speech, were played out within the confines of the camp, offering valuable lessons for both the prisoners and their captors. The story of Camp Aliceville serves as a testament to the power of freedom and information in shaping beliefs and fostering reconciliation. As the former prisoners integrated back into German society, they carried with them the principles they had encountered during their captivity, contributing to the reconstruction of their nation and the establishment of a more open and democratic society. The camp's impact extended beyond its physical boundaries, influencing not only the individuals who passed through its gates, but also the broader historical narrative of post-war Europe. In the decades that followed, the experiences of the German POWs at Camp Aliceville were documented in various scholarly works, providing insights into the complexities of wartime captivity and the transformative potential of exposure to democratic ideals. These accounts highlighted the unique role that the camp played in the ideological dismantling of Nazi indoctrination, offering a case study in the efficacy of soft power and the enduring influence of a free press and open dialogue. The narrative of Camp Aliceville underscores the importance of maintaining a free and critical press, not only as a pillar of democracy, but also as a tool for bridging cultural divides and fostering understanding. The prisoners' journey from indoctrination to enlightenment, facilitated by the unassuming pages of American newspapers, serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring power of information in shaping human history. The experiences of German POWs at Camp Aliceville were profoundly influenced by the camp's structured educational programs, which emphasized both practical skills and cultural education. These programs were not just a means to pass the time. They were carefully crafted initiatives aimed at equipping the prisoners with knowledge and skills that would prove beneficial in their post-war lives. The involvement of the YMCA in facilitating these programs was instrumental, providing resources that encouraged the prisoners to engage with the content beyond their immediate circumstances. This engagement was crucial in transforming the POWs' perspectives and providing them with a broader understanding of the world around them. Educational classes were diverse, encompassing English language instruction, mathematics, and vocational training. These classes served dual purposes, preparing the POWs for reintegration into civilian life and offering them a broader understanding of American society and its values. English language classes, for instance, were not only about learning to communicate effectively in a new language, but also about gaining insight into American culture and customs. Learning English opened doors to understanding American newspapers, literature, and films, which were integral to the educational experience at the camp. The curriculum was meticulously designed not only to impart knowledge, but also to foster critical thinking, a skill that was often stifled under the rigid indoctrination of the Nazi regime. Discussions prompted by access to American newspapers provided fertile ground for these intellectual exercises. POWs were encouraged to question, debate, and analyze current events, a novel experience for many who had been accustomed to a controlled narrative. This approach was transformative for many prisoners. The former Nazi youth instructor, in particular, became a keen participant in these discussions, illustrating the transformative potential of exposure to diverse perspectives. His journey from a staunch supporter of Nazi ideology to a proponent of democratic values exemplifies the profound impact of the camp's educational programs. The camp's administration, recognizing the value of these programs, supported the integration of educational activities into the daily routines of the prisoners. This support extended to the provision of materials and the facilitation of guest lectures by local educators and experts. These interactions further reinforced the principles of democratic engagement and open dialogue, contrasting sharply with the authoritarian structures the POWs had previously endorsed. Guest lectures covered a range of topics, from the fundamentals of democracy to the intricacies of American history and culture. These sessions were not only enlightening, but also encouraged the POWs to think critically about their own beliefs and values. Cultural exchange was another significant component of the camp's operations. The prisoners were exposed to American music, films, and literature, which played a notable role in demystifying American culture and humanizing the enemy. These cultural artifacts were not merely forms of entertainment, but served as educational tools that highlighted the values and lifestyle of a democratic society. For many POWs, these experiences were eye-opening, revealing a depth and complexity to American life that propaganda had failed to convey. Watching American films, for instance, allowed the prisoners to see the diversity and vibrancy of American society, challenging the monolithic image they had previously held. Over time, the local community in Aliceville, initially apprehensive about the presence of enemy soldiers in their midst, gradually came to see the POWs as individuals rather than nameless adversaries. This shift in perception was facilitated by the prisoners' involvement in local labor projects, which included construction, farming, and forestry work. These projects not only contributed to the wartime economy, but also allowed for limited but meaningful interactions between the prisoners and the local populace. These interactions provided opportunities for mutual understanding and broke down stereotypes on both sides, fostering a sense of shared humanity. The local residents began to see the POWs as hardworking and respectful individuals, while the prisoners gained a more nuanced understanding of American life and values. Discipline within the camp was maintained according to the regulations set forth by the Geneva Conventions. The camp's command structure emphasized fair treatment and the maintenance of order, balancing security concerns with the humane treatment of prisoners. Incidents of unrest were rare, and when they did occur, they were typically resolved through dialogue and negotiation rather than force. This approach reinforced the principles of justice and fairness, further contributing to the POW's evolving perceptions of American governance. The emphasis on fair treatment and justice was a stark contrast to the authoritarian structures under which many of the POWs had previously lived, further encouraging them to embrace democratic ideals. As the war drew to a close, the focus shifted towards repatriation and the reintegration of POWs into post-war Germany. The educational and cultural programs at Camp Aliceville had equipped many of the prisoners with the tools necessary to engage with the democratic process and contribute to the reconstruction of their homeland. The former Nazi youth instructor, emblematic of this transformation, returned to Germany with a new perspective and a commitment to fostering democratic values in his community. His story was not unique. Many former POWs returned home with a newfound appreciation for democratic ideals and a desire to contribute positively to the rebuilding of their country. The repatriation process was methodical, involving careful coordination between military authorities and international agencies. The POWs were returned to Germany in phases, with priority given to those deemed least likely to pose a risk to the stability of the post-war order. Each returning group was provided with resources to aid their transition, including information on the political and economic changes underway in their homeland. This support ensured that the former POWs were not only physically returned to their homeland, but were also mentally prepared to engage with the new democratic structures emerging in post-war Germany. The legacy of Camp Aliceville is one of profound ideological shift and personal transformation. The exposure to a free press, coupled with educational and cultural exchange, proved to be a powerful catalyst for change. The experience of the German POWs at the camp underscores the potential of democratic ideals to bridge cultural divides and foster critical thinking, ultimately contributing to the reconstruction of a war-torn society. In the years following their repatriation, many former POWs maintained a connection with the ideals they encountered at Camp Aliceville. Some became active participants in Germany's burgeoning democratic institutions, advocating for policies that reflected the values of openness and transparency they had come to appreciate. This engagement played a role in shaping the political landscape of post-war Germany, illustrating the enduring impact of the camp's programs. Overall, the story of Camp Aliceville serves as a testament to the transformative power of education and free information. It highlights the importance of providing individuals with the tools to think critically and engage with diverse perspectives, a lesson that remains relevant in contemporary discussions about the role of education and media in shaping democratic societies. The experiences of the POWs at Camp Aliceville remind us that even in the midst of conflict, there is potential for understanding and growth, paving the way for reconciliation and renewal. The camp's legacy is a powerful reminder that education and cultural exchange can serve as catalysts for change, fostering understanding and bridging divides in even the most challenging of circumstances. As the German prisoners of war departed Camp Aliceville and returned to their homeland, they carried with them more than just memories of their time in captivity. The experiences and education they received at the camp had equipped them with a nuanced understanding of democratic values and the importance of a free press. Many of these former POWs became instrumental in the rebuilding of post-war Germany, actively participating in the establishment of democratic institutions and advocating for policies that promoted transparency and accountability. The ideological transformation that occurred at Camp Aliceville was not uniform, but its impact was significant. For those who embraced the lessons learned during their captivity, the transition from authoritarian indoctrination to democratic engagement marked a profound personal journey. The former Nazi youth instructor, once a staunch supporter of the regime, emerged as a vocal proponent of democratic values, leveraging his experiences to foster dialogue and understanding in his community. The logistical process of repatriation was executed with precision, ensuring that each former prisoner was accounted for and returned to Germany in an orderly manner. The U.S. Army's collaboration with international agencies facilitated a smooth transition, providing resources and support to aid the POWs' reintegration into civilian life. This meticulous planning underscored the commitment to ensuring that the returnees were not only prepared physically, but also ideologically aligned with the principles of their new democratic society. The legacy of Camp Aliceville extends beyond the immediate post-war period, serving as a testament to the power of information and education in shaping ideologies. The camp's systems and environments, from access to American newspapers to structured educational programs, played a pivotal role in dismantling preconceived notions and fostering critical thinking. This transformation was emblematic of the broader ideological shift that occurred in Germany as the nation rebuilt itself from the ashes of war. In retrospect, Camp Aliceville stands as a historical case study in the effective use of soft power and the enduring influence of open societies. It highlights the potential for change even in the most challenging circumstances, emphasizing the importance of dialogue, education, and cultural exchange in bridging divides and fostering understanding. The story of Camp Aliceville and its impact on the German POWs serves as a powerful reminder of the transformative potential of democratic ideals, offering valuable lessons for future generations in the pursuit of reconciliation and peace.